I sent it. Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome to our event today. I'm Tega, and I'm the Executive Director of British Africa Policy Exchange Group. You're welcome. We will be talking about Nigeria at 60. Uh, Before I go on with that, I just want to explain to you what the organization is about. British Africa Policy Exchange Group is a newly formed think tank that is focused on bringing Africa and the UK to create a collaboration in terms of on a policy, in terms of exchange of ideas and policies. We hope to bring Africans in diaspora, especially in the UK, to bring their experiences they've had in the UK to help in the betterment of Africa. We are doing this event in collaboration with the New Nigeria Post, which is an online news agency that is focused in promoting Nigeria across the world. Um, I have with me guests here to talk about Nigeria. As we all know, I'm believing most people that are watching us now are Nigerians, or even if you are not a Nigerian, you know that the 1st of October was the 60th anniversary of our independence from the United Kingdom. But more also, Nigeria has been really trending on the news lately. You must have heard about the NSAS movement going on in Nigeria. But this event will be focused on talking about Nigeria in terms of looking at policies, looking at youth, and looking at the involvement of the diaspora in the development of Nigeria. I have with me a number of guests. I'm going to be calling each of them to introduce themselves to us, and also uh, I'm going to ask them how they feel about Nigeria at 60. The first person I will call, just a brief introduction, is Nero Obuja, former special advisor to the British Prime Minister. So over to you, Nero.
Good evening, everybody. Great to join this excellent conversation. I'm Nero Wujabo, former special advisor to the Prime Minister here in the UK. I think the first thing to say is to really congratulate the young people of Nigeria. I think they're doing an excellent job to raise their voices and raise the issue that are of concern to them. So a great deal to talk about, a great deal more to do, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nero. The next person is Ife Olu, my very good friend. I would leave her to introduce herself and tell us. I want to ask you while you're introducing yourself to tell us what do you think about Nigeria at 60? What are your thoughts?
Hi.
So yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Ifa Olu and thank you Tegarin for organising this and having me on the platform today. I'm the youth leader of a political organisation called Conservative Friends of Nigeria. How do I feel about Nigeria being 60? I think it's come a long way. It's still evolving. I believe in Nigeria. I believe in the future of Nigeria. I believe in the future of the youth. So I think we've come a long way and we're making progress. Slow but sure progress is what I would say.
Thank you. They said progress is slow and painful. And I think I would be asking the next person, a wonderful gentleman, to introduce himself. I call him the young president, but I would let him introduce himself. Mr. Ahmed Buhari, please tell us a bit more about yourself. And can I ask you, what are your views? When you woke up that day and you heard that Nigeria was 60, what sort of thoughts came into your head?
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you, Tiger, for putting this together, and thank you all for being present at a time like this when we're talking about our dear country. My name is Ahmed Buhari. I'm an African Union ambassador and the 2063 African Union Agenda um, Youth Envoy. I'm excited to be with you guys this evening, especially as we're talking about our dear country. We turned 60 just a few days ago. Shortly after that, we started a massive protest across the length and breadth of the country. The protest has actually been sustained for a few days longer than expected, and that is why today the international community is also aware, and we can see very clearly that everybody is talking about Nigeria and hoping that the young people of this country will be strong enough to sustain the momentum, and hopefully this sustained momentum will bring about the kind of reforms and changes that our dear nation is in dear need of, especially at a time like this. Many people, however, do not clearly understand what we are trying to fight for. Most of it is because we are looking for a way to get the government to understand that certain reforms have got to be made. If you look at the structure of Nigeria, most of the things that were set 40, 50 years ago are still the same things we're expected to work with. They can't hold anymore, and which is why we are trying to make our voices heard, and we are hoping and believing that the system would stop for a minute, listen to us, and ensure that these changes are effected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I just say, if there's any the people watching us, if as we go on you have questions, please put it on the comment section, and we will take some of your questions as we go along tonight. The next person I want to bring in is my good friend, Mr. Is the executive director of TAP Initiative. Is a human rights lawyer, and I think I'm going to let him introduce, tell us more about himself. But while you introduce yourself, I would like to ask you, what do you think are the most challenging situations or problems we face in Nigeria at the moment? I'm talking about the person of Mr. Obono. I can't hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I muted myself and I didn't realize that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Tega, for having me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good. It's good to see people like Ahmed. It's also good to see people like Ife on board. And I really want to thank everyone else who has joined on here. And I want to thank you for the initiative to host this particular program. However, for me, I would consider the challenges that we are facing in Nigeria mostly in terms of rights and how citizens think or see themselves as if they are citizens or they are just living or coexisting in Nigeria without necessarily feeling that they have a sense of ownership in the country. So that's the real challenge in Nigeria. That's in answering your question. So if you're asking what is the major problem that we have in Nigeria, I'll first of all say we have a problem of identity. Identity in the sense that not too many people feel that they are citizens of the country. And one of the major reasons you find that they don't tend to identify with Nigeria is because the country seems to fail them in terms of either healthcare, education, even in terms of civic space. So what is civic space? We're talking about their ability to express themselves freely, their ability to want to organize themselves, assemble themselves, either petition or be able to just be able to express themselves, either in terms of how they dress up and or in terms of how they want to speak or what they want to say. So these are very big challenges because as we progress in the country and as a people, we're 60 years old now, and as we begin to progress, we need to understand that it is beyond citizenship, beyond or nationhood, it's beyond just saying you're building or constructing roads, or you're providing pipe and water, or you're giving electricity. It's also the ability to bring about that level of belonging, citizenship, nationhood, that unifies people. So if you, I wouldn't want to talk about the level of infrastructure gain and all that, but I like to basically look at citizens in terms of rights. How are women treated in terms of gender equality? How are we discussing the question of diversity, even when you're talking about sexual rights, yeah, and reproductive rights. So these are the kind of conversations that I think we need to have when we are talking about the challenges of Nigeria, because already every other person has set up their own local government. So, for example, I've got generator, and if my road is bad, I'll organize, or we just organize ourselves and fill our potholes. Everyone has boreholes in their houses, right? So you really don't need government to provide such amenities for you now. What we just need is for us to be able to express ourselves as citizens of the country and feel like we have a sense of belonging. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think I'm just going to say, just to add to what you said, that these meetings, BAPEG have decided that one of the initiatives we want to do is to bring people under a tree of talking, because we feel like there's a need to fully identify the real problems we face in Africa, in Nigeria. Because some of the issues that are being talked about now, we see them as smokescreen or as a product of a much bigger issue that we're facing. And so I think I'm very happy I have a group of people like you who are able to talk about these issues and then find ways we can come up with solutions, and then we can see what we can do. When you know what the problem is, you would know, and you know how to solve it, then you've started from somewhere. I think the next person I'm going to bring in is our professor, a Nigerian professor from South Africa. I will let him introduce himself. He's Professor Tosin Badini. What do you think about Nigeria at 60? What were your thoughts when you were thinking about this country at 60?
Hi everyone, thanks for inviting me. Hoping to learn a lot from you guys. I'm Tosin Badini, a professor at Durban University of Technology, South Africa. At 60, I think we've not done well, but thank God that we're still together as a country. You know, when you compare yourself to a country like Syria, you want to thank God. But I'm hopeful that our young people, you know, will do well. Maybe in 30 years' time, I'm happy about what is happening in Nigeria, the NSAS. They are not really afraid like, you know, the older ones. But I also believe that we need value reorientation in Nigeria. I think that's one of the things that we should begin to tell young people. We should begin to mentor young people about value orientation. And one of
Can
the things
I
I also
ask what do you mean by that? I'm sorry to cut into you. What do you mean? Because some people are listening to us and saying, what does that mean? If you can give
okay,
us just
I'm just thinking about a value system. Take, for example, in Nigeria, it's like I look at a lot of people. It's we think so much about money. Everybody is like focusing on money. We worship money. We don't really focus on people with ideas, people that have integrity. And so people talk about the problem of corruption in Nigeria. You can't really point to the leaders. We have to look at all of us. What do we value? If you go to Lagos, you know, there was a time I was in Lagos that somebody at the airport, you know, duped me in Lagos. So everybody is just worshiping money, materialism. You know, I'm talking about something like that. So, but we must begin to change that, to begin to let people know that what matters in life is not how much money you have. What matters is integrity. What matters is having a good name. What matters is really giving back something to the society. And I believe that is, to me, greatness. Greatness is all about service. And I think we can begin to tell young people about that, about having good values.
okay. Thank you very much for that contribution. I think I might probably go back to what you just said. I probably will put that question back to someone, but I think I want to proceed by introducing our last and final guest. Uh, He's a perfect gentleman. I've had lots of conversations with him in the past, very knowledgeable. And I thought, you are one person I want to bring in to help us analyze the issues we face in Nigeria. And that's the person of Julius Ayo. He's the editor-in-chief of Lagos Today, but I would ask him to give us more introduction of himself. I know he has a huge portfolio, but also while you introduce yourself, I want to ask you when you thought about Nigeria at 60 and even the current issue we have with the NSAS. What are your thoughts that we are facing, some of the issues we are facing now at 60? Do you think we should be dealing with these issues?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tega, for organizing this. It's really good. I'm really impressed. My name is Julius Afolalu. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Lagos Today newspaper. Nigeria at 60, what is our biggest problem? What's our biggest challenge? I would say we found ourselves in a place where we are democracy in progress. So I will start with being a bit positive. I think we've been back in democracy now for 21 years, which is a good work in progress, I would say we have. And more of the problems that we inherited is the problems from the military era. So you're dealing with a population where people don't actually understand their rights. People don't know what they're meant to do. People don't understand the power that they have. You refer to the NSAS movement. I think that's one of the things we've been advocating for in the past couple of years now, for people to actually know how the participation of civic societies can help in governance. And it's very exciting to know that people now identify with this. People know what the next thing to do. People know the power of the people. It's interesting to see that in what we have today. I think one of the biggest problems in Nigeria also is the fact that identity is another major issue that we have. So we have a country where people don't actually know the potential of who they are, because we are divided in the line of tribal lines. We have a major issue with tribe. But the good thing about Nigeria today is the fact that I'm really excited about the NSAS, because this is giving a voice to the youth. It has empowered us. It has given us the notion to know what is the next thing to do. We now have an option of saying, we hope after this, people can also go back and say, we want to advocate for power, we want to advocate for medicals, we want to advocate for several other things. So I say Nigeria at 60, we've not had it easy, but it's work in progress. That would be my answer.
Okay, I'm going to now talk about policy. I will spend a few minutes talking about that. I want us to keep our answers to less than 3 to 4 minutes because of the time frame that we have. I'm going to ask Nero, what areas should be improved in terms of exploration and implementation of policies? Because you are coming as a special advisor to a British Prime Minister. You're coming from a policy background. You've seen how policies are made and implemented in government. So looking at Nigeria, what do you think should be done? Because I think a lot of people have said some of the issues we are facing is a failure of policy. So what areas can policies be improved in terms of how they are explored and implemented? And what are the problems in the implementation? Because we've seen that they've been very good initiatives over the years in Nigeria, but sometimes we don't even hear how they go or what really happens to them in the end.
Okay, so what I would say is that the policy-making process is pretty much part of the democratic process itself. But as many of the speakers have said, something is clearly broken in the Nigerian context, and we need to fix it. You see that during elections, many of the political parties, they publish their manifesto, a great big list of things they're going to do. And I think that if you look back to many administrations in the past, there is a great distance 2 or 3 years down the line in terms of their administration, a great distance between the proposals they put forward and what's actually being done on ground. So I think the issue there is that, so from that perspective, you also have a gap between the general public, the population, and what's actually happening in terms of the governance of the country. So I think we need to take a deep look at the policy process in Nigeria, in essence, to introduce a policy process in Nigeria. And from my perspective, from the one hand, is about politicians engaging with communities way before any electoral process, understanding the needs of communities across the country, and then using that evidence base of that engagement with people to develop their manifestos. And then if you succeed in winning the election and you're in government, that process of engaging with communities, with people, whether it's young people or groups of interest, whether it's women, disabled people, and so on, that process continues into government. So that by the time you want to implement any kind of policy change, you are able to demonstrate that you've engaged people, you've understood their views, and your policy is more likely to be successful when implemented. What I can see is that that process is not working as it should in the Nigerian context, and we need to find a way of improving that. And I think particularly if you look at this NSAS demonstration, the young people have many grievances which are simply not been met in the past. So if you look at one example, the education system. If you ask anybody, what is the policy of Nigeria in terms of education and ensuring that the population is educated, I'm sure we'll come out with a million different answers, because there's no clear view that has been set out by this administration or historical administrations of what we are seeking to do, what we are seeking to achieve in terms of education. And you can pretty much map that on other issues like health, on housing, and so on and so forth. So I think there are lessons we can learn from other countries in terms of how the policy process actually works.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answer. I'm going to ask Julius, you are someone that works in the journalist sector, so you understand the importance of you as journalist. You are like the voice that monitors government activities. I'm going to ask you, in your experience, what do you think? Is there anything as policy making in Nigeria? Do you follow the system, how it works? Because for some of us in the UK, what we have is there is a policy statement, there's a consultation, and people who are interested will come and make their submissions and so on and so forth. And there's a back and forth within both people outside and political parties within the House of Parliament. But what do we have in Nigeria? Is it working? Should we rethink on how we make policies in Nigeria? I'm going to give you a quick example. There was this issue around the policy on grazing. I can't remember the exact name now. And there was a lot of uproar on, and the government had to backtrack on that. I think it's called Ruga also. Do we have those sorts of processes in Nigeria? And what can we do to improve them or change them?
So thank you. One of the biggest problems in policy in Nigeria is the Nigerian problem. The sophistication of the civil service is one of the biggest problems. So you have a situation where we have a policy in a specific ministry, in a specific sector, but it is not being followed. So it's not like the various sectors that we have in Nigeria don't come out with brand new, beautiful policies. They always come out with policies, decent policies, I would say sometimes. But the problem is the fact that when you have a civil service that is not sophisticated enough, you don't have execution of those policies. So it's one of the biggest problems we have. So if you have challenges in saying, how come we don't have a drive? In fact, young people had to come together to form, we have a new group called the African Policy Conversations, where we're trying to say we need to drive policies for what government is doing. So the biggest challenge is not the fact that policies are not being driven in the sectors. The biggest challenge is the fact that the civil service is not sophisticated enough to have the education to make sure it is by following the policies and the procedural ways that we can have an effective government.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks a lot for that. I'm going to ask a follow-up question to Tosin. You are a professor in South Africa, but you were born and raised in Nigeria. And I think you're doing really well. I've seen some of the work you're doing in South Africa. The question now is, Julius has just raised that there's an issue around lack of sophistication, which I think translates, we have inadequate people working in the civil service, but Nigerians are some of the best, most experienced people working across the world in different sectors, including yourself. People like Nero, for instance, brilliantly worked with the civil service in the UK and still does some work. Yeah. Do you think there's an issue of brain drain, that we are losing the best minds in Nigeria to the other part of the world? Do you think there's an issue, and how can we solve this issue? How can we have a situation where experts Nigerians across the world can contribute to the development of Nigeria?
Absolutely. We have a problem of brain drain. Brain drain robs of efficient and professionals that could have contributed immensely to the development of Nigeria. I saw statistics from African Union that every year Africa loses about 70,000 people. You know, they leave Africa to other parts of the world. I'm sure global north, we're talking about global north. You can do the statistics of how many people are Nigerians, but I'm sure maybe about 30% of those 70,000 might be Nigerians. And health sector in particular is heavily affected. Those of you that live in UK, and I'm sure you know the statistics, according to UK General Medical Council, about 8,900 medical doctors, Nigerians medical doctors, work in the UK. And these are people that should be in Nigeria. But it's shameful that some people don't know the importance of that. I read what Chris Ngige, I think the Minister of Labour, said that we don't need them, that we have enough. When we have 5,000, I think we have 5,000 doctors. Sorry, 5,000, one doctor to 5,000 people in Nigeria. When WHO recommended it should be one doctor to 600 people. So the problem in Nigeria is that some of our leaders are not informed. If they are informed, they will know the importance of having people that are qualified in Nigeria. I know a lot of people that they even want to go back to Nigeria to offer their service, and the way they even relate with them is like, we don't need you. So we need leaders that are informed, that know the importance of manpower that we have all over the world. And until that happens, I don't think we'll be able to reap the benefits of these professionals. That's what I think. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. We're going to quickly move on. We're right on time. We're going to move on to I think the most important issue Nigeria is dealing with right now, which I think is exciting, is the issue around what we see on the streets of Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, across the nation, which is, I call it a reawakening, an awakening of young people in Nigeria. When we were organizing this event, we knew we wanted to have a focus on young people, but we never expected that there was going to be an uprising like what we're seeing now. So we're going to beam a light of what is going on, the NSAS movement, which I think is just one issue I feel young people of many issues they will be asking for and dealing with. The first question I am going to ask is, beyond the protest, are young people making the right demands? Do they fully understand the problems? That question is for Ahmed Buhari. Do you think young people fully understand the problems we face? Because now they're asking to end SARS, but is that really the problem?
Thank you, Tiger. Thank you. So in reality, yeah, all the problems that we're going to state about Nigeria today, or when you go onto the streets, the things you're going to ask the people and the responses they're going to give you, it will be termed as stating the obvious. There will be things that we already know. There will be things that have been in the mainstream Nigerian situation for the last 40 years or so. Nothing has really changed. Recently, I was sitting down with a group of people and they said, oh, Nigeria used to be very great. And I said, tell me when it used to be very great. Yes, I mean, tell me when it was very great, because I remember in the 70s, I mean, even if I was young then, I wasn't born in the 70s, but I could hear songs from people like Fela, from Fela singing songs like International, Tif Tif, Palava, Dead Body Get Accident, you know,
Yeah.
things like that. And then you come to the 80s and you hear songs from Victor Olaya singing songs of poverty, of hunger, of misery. Sonny Okosu spent all his life singing songs that, you know, kept saying we need a better country, we need to be a united people, we need a country that is going to be prosperous. So what this goes to show is that we still haven't gotten it right. And some people might say maybe the real fundamental problem with Nigeria is the fact that we were amalgamated in 1914 by the colonialists. I keep reminding people that the only reason why the colonialists found a reason to amalgamate the northern and southern part of the country was for economic reasons. So those economic benefits are still there. All we need to do is to come together and see how we can leverage on our comparative economic advantages. Now, these comparative economic advantages are the things that can unite us as a people. We are different on all grounds. We have got ethnic differences, religious differences, political differences, we've got gender biases, and even age bracket biases. So I am thinking the best way to solve all of those problems is for us to see how we can leverage on our comparative economic advantages. When we leverage on these comparative economic advantages, that is when we're going to see the reason for the North, the South, to do things without them thinking whether I'm worshiping Ogun or I'm worshiping Ida. Those are the fundamental problems. So right now we have a protest that is going on in the country. We've seen it kicked off so well in Lagos that even companies are telling their staff that they could actually pick days that they want to go for the protest and days that they want to come to work, so that the protest can be sustained. Oh yes, we've seen it in Port Harcourt. We've seen it in Port Harcourt, where the governor of Port Harcourt, a few months ago, said he was never going to allow any protest in River State, because he has banned all sorts of protests. But now he's supporting it. Obviously, you know, there's a political undertone to it. And then when you come up north, you find, unfortunately, you find a lot of groups saying that they should reinstate SARS. So it goes to show you that we are divided, and regardless of whether the bone of contention is going to favor me or not, as far as you have decided to take it, I don't want to have it. If I want to have it, I'm sure you wouldn't want to take it. So it's a huge problem, and I think one of the reasons why we haven't progressed as much as we should is because we've allowed our politicians to keep rubbing in our faces those things that have always divided us: ethnicity, religion, political party ideological affiliations, age bracket, social status, gender. Those are our fundamental problems. And the other thing that we must also not forget is, when you listen to all of these cries from people, whether being the international community who always act like they're the observers of Nigeria, or the activists around who want to have a say about everything, the one big problem that they leave behind is, what is the solution? Are you offering something? Are you preferring a solution to the problems that we are facing? What have you got to say to the situation, so that maybe we don't just complain, but rather we're also presenting possible solutions that can help us resolve some of our impending problems?
Yeah, that is very right. I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question very quickly. You ran for presidency in 2019, and we know what happened. That the statistics showed that all the young candidates. We had people like yourself, Shore, Kingsley Mogalo of YPP. You guys were probably some of the best candidates with great ideas that ran. Well, you had less than 500,000 votes combined. Would you say there's an issue with young people trusting younger candidates during the election? Because what we've seen now is very good, is encouraging. We've seen an uprising of young people, but mostly in the urban area. You're from the north of Nigeria. Yes, you had some you have some cities there, but you also have lots of people that live in rural areas. How do we engage them, the young people there, and how do we actually transform some of this agitation into votes, into policies, and into meaningful change?
You're very correct, Tega. I did contest in the last election. In fact, I'm the first young person to ever present himself before the Nigerian people to say I want to contest for an office of that magnitude in this country before every other person came on board. I'll tell you one thing, yeah. One of the reasons why we couldn't cut much was because we failed to actually find a rallying point amongst ourselves to say, okay, this one person is the one we're all going to support. But even at that, we're still not going to win the election. So the one big thing that people keep forgetting when we talk about young people who came out, or should I say new breed of politicians who came out to contest in the last election, was the fact that within the platform is essential. You need a platform that is deep rooted into the grassroots, and the only way you can deep root a political party into the grassroots is a lot of money. Because when you now understand that the poverty that lingers in the rural area and the expectation from the rural area that anybody who's contesting for a political office must bring something for them to grease their palms with, and nobody is prepared to understand that for a politician to be accountable to the people would have to invest in the campaigns. So if the belief system still remains that we are here waiting for politicians or intending politicians to come and meet us to give us something so that we can vote for them, when they vote for them, they go into office, they would always believe that they have actually sorted those people out for 4 years. And we have people in rural areas who will be fine with a bar of soap to decide who they vote for, or maybe as little as 500 naira or 200 naira. So again, if you look at the young people who came out to contest, all of them collectively, we were barely able to clinch more than 300,000 votes. From all the noise that was made, from all the hype that was made, from all the exercise that was spent, it was a two-horse race. It was between the APC and the PDP. So the one thing I kept telling young people at that time was, forget about the parties. Let us just thumb them in our numbers, and I can assure you that we would have a stronger say in those parties. Because if the platform is not right, you will not be heard. And already these are platforms that in the last few years have spent billions of Nigerian money in instituting the structures that hold these political parties. So for young people, especially the ones in the rural areas, to understand these things, a lot of enlightenment has got to be done, a lot of education has got to be done, and all of these things do not come cheap. It comes with a lot of investments.
Thank you very much. Mr. Obono, Ahmed touched on earlier the fact that young people, we can see, it seems like there's been an awakening of young people, but in areas like the north and even in the past, has it been a situation where there's a cultural barrier as to why young people have been a bit lethargic in the past about engaging the older generation in the polity? Obono, did you get my question? We can't hear you. You are mute again.
Thank you. So yes, in terms of cultural barriers, I think automatically, it's just like what has been happening within the during this NSAS process. where you see or hear that people are begging the president to speak to young people because he's their father. And you hear cases of, oh, your children are on the streets and they are protesting. As a father, or as a father of the nation, or as a father figure for these people or these children, please can you come out and speak to them? Now, there's a systemic there's been a systemic way of behavior, of behavioral pattern that has brought about this kind of culture of thinking that you are subservient to your leaders. So your leaders are your father figure, so you shouldn't talk to them anyhow. And who the hell are you for you to, pardon my language, for you to want to even replace this your leaders or your father? So why don't you wait for your turn? That's the culture that we have. So consistently, people are trying to make younger people feel inferior to the older ones, and there is not much level of accountability from the older generation to the younger generation to let them understand that you are a citizen. First of all, you are not someone's child. You've got rights. It's children that actually beg, but citizens actually demand. They make demand on the system. So if you don't have that, since we've already had that culture of, oh, sorry, sir, like, oh, I don't want to offend you, sir. I mean, you won't be able to challenge the system or place a demand on the system. So until we begin to understand that the people in power, the power asymmetry is not supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be the people to the government. And because the people are majority and they're the ones who should actually keep them in power. If you don't make and put it in the psychology or in the subconscious of young people, we will continue to look up to this older generation as, okay, let them just do, our turn will come. You won't want to place a demand on the system that will enable you to take over, right? So you see, Ahmed was running for president. How many young people believed he could make president? Oh, no, let him calm down. Atiku, Buhari is their turn. Let them do and go. Maybe in future we can consider him. How dare you disrespect? So even the idea of there was a protest, I'm very sure most people have seen that protest, video last night or every hour of today, where someone said that Buhari is the boy, I can't even remember how she put it. She was saying that boy is messing up or something like that. And it was trended #1 yesterday on Twitter because it was unprecedented. How do you tell the
bad
president that
he's been a very bad boy? I saw that,
yeah. So how do you tell the President Buhari that he's a bad boy? Like, how do you do that? So it's a cultural thing. And until we begin to understand that, yes, Buhari is a bad boy, yeah. In the real context of it, he's not providing the amenities that he's supposed to do. He's not leading the country as he should have been. Young people won't be able to come in to take.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for that. Yes, I heard that, and it resonated something.
Are you cutting me or should I continue?
I think we're going to move on. Thanks a lot. We're going to.
Hello.
We still have one more question for you, but we're going to move on for now. Just give me a second, guys. I'm just checking. Okay, here we are. So, yeah, I think I heard that statement that Buhari has been a bad boy. I thought they were referring to the young Buhari here, but they actually showed the picture. they put up his picture, and it reminded me. I think what I'm going to put a question to Ife now. You are a leader of a youth wing of one of the major political parties in the UK. You actually ran for elections as well in your local ward. What I want to ask you is, as a youth leader, how can, from your experience, how do you think young Nigerians can organize themselves to either make way in an organized political party or form their own political parties? Because it seemed like most of the space is occupied by the older generations in the political spectrum in Nigeria. But we all can agree that the young people have a lot to offer the political system in Nigeria. So what do you think they should be doing from your own experience, and how can they do it?
I think now is the time, really. We see with the NSAS campaign, we see a lot of young people protesting and, making ways to kind of vocalize their voices. Now, what I really think is the youth have to get to a point, because what you're fighting here is not just people, you're fighting a system. You need to get to a point, I believe, and it might sound very radical, where you're ready to literally die for the nation. And I know it sounds really bad. It sounds like, goodness me, does it have to get to that point? But where something that the nation has been in, has had a system for a very long time, the youths have to get to a point where they can be united and really want to see change, not change for their own benefits, looking at the mistakes of their forefathers and making sure they can say, you know what, I want to make a change to this nation. So a sense of unity amongst themselves, understanding there's a common goal, understanding that, look, this is the changes we want to see happen, and making sure they fight for it till literally their life is on the line for it. I think an example will be Showore. We saw that with the is it Revolution Now? Forgive me if I got that wrong. He was somebody who literally protested and was ready to, literally die to say, I will not stop till I see this change. And I think we need more people like that in Nigeria who are ready to say, I will stand on the line. I'm not going to stop till I see a change. And I think if they come together with a sense of unity, a sense of oneness, I think they can really be up to something, is my opinion, what I would say.
Thank you very much. For someone like Professor, you are in South Africa, you work in a university setting. I'm going to give you an example of what we have in the UK. For some of us who've lived here, we know that even from secondary school, young people are beginning to take sides of their political ideologies. They begin to form that. Personally, when I was growing up in Nigeria, I started to become interested in politics from my secondary school days, because I had a lecturer that was always talking about politics. He would drift out of his subject and tell us about politics, and then he will come back to it. But he inspired me in that sense. But I don't live in Nigeria, so I will probably put this question to both Julius and to the professor there. Is there a situation where that our young people are not really getting engaged from a young age in understanding politics and the role it plays in their lives? Do we have that situation in Nigeria? Julius, first of all. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you for the question. So the political structure that we inherited, especially in 1999, with the new democracy that we have in Nigeria, it's been construed in a way that it empowers just the two biggest parties. Nigeria is a very, very massive country to govern, and is a massive country to run a political party. You're talking about running around the south part of the country, the southwest, the southeast, the northern part of the country, so it's huge. So what we've seen is the fact that as Nigerians, we've not been strategic as young people to say, how do we want to get our government back? So first and foremost, we have elections coming up in 2023. Nobody's doing anything now. None of the political parties that are clamoring for young people is moving around, making an effort to shadow the process of the government. So for all the initiatives that are being sent out now, we are meant to have a youth party, at least one or two of them, that should say, right now in 2020, we want to be in governance in 2023. These are the things that we're going to do. And not to underestimate any party, we take a cue from the ruling party now. They were an opposition party for about 4 years before they got into government, and they had to get a coalition before they got into government. So why are the youths not looking at a party where we can have a space where we say we want to just run for governorship elections or House of Assembly or Senate, where we know we stand a chance? Another part also is because we're in a developing country. So in the developing world, you have a situation where, as Buhari mentioned earlier, they can buy votes in rural areas. So our chances of getting decent votes restricts us to the urban areas. And so why don't we look at, so we have to be strategic to say, what are the political positions that we can get from the urban areas? How can we get them? If we get them, can we earn the trust of the people? And can they give us a bigger mandate? So the biggest challenge you have in terms of getting governance is because we've not been strategic enough to say, what is the process of getting there? Is it going to take us 8 years? What is the plan? When do we start and what do we do? So that's the biggest challenge I would say we have.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I've learned, I've just taken some notes, very important points you just raised there. I'm going to go back to our professor. I think I'm going to just, based on what Julius has said, how can we start cultivating, getting young people to be engaged in politics in Nigeria? You, as part of your work, you mentor young people that come to your university, but it seems like there is a disconnect between young people and the issues and government. How do we create change that?
Okay, I believe, I spoke the other time about value reorientation. I believe that what we need to do is to begin to tell young people about greatness. I said the other time that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. A lot of people go into politics in Nigeria because of what is there for them, what they want to go and benefit, not because of what they want to give. So I think what we need to do is to begin to tell young people that it's all about service, and that they should not be thinking about the money, because in Nigeria at the moment, a lot of people just serve maybe some of these politicians thinking about what they are going to give to them. But by the time we begin to change that, young people can come together and they can also influence one another. And using the power of social media, they can form a group, see what is happening with the NSAS, see how they've been able to, network with one another, and they are making a change. For the first time, the president first said that the SARS was going to be reformed, but later the president came back and said it was going to be banned. So there's a lot they can do together, and also if they are able to, to be united. And remember, Buhari was saying the other time that he was one of the presidential candidates. I would have loved that all of them had come together, and I'm sure they would not have won, but they should have, long time view. Even if maybe they are just going to win, maybe just one local government together, or one senatorial, district. I don't know what they call it in Nigeria. But they can have a plan for the next 6 years, 7 years. So, for example, in South Africa, there's a party that was started by a guy called Malema, and I'm sure if you are conversant with the politics in South Africa, this guy has been able to change, the discourse in South Africa. Although I don't really support his ideology, but he's been able to change things in South Africa just because of what he has been able to do. We need young people like that, and I know it is possible. With what is happening in Nigeria, I see a brighter future for our young people. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate. I'm going to just link that. You had mentioned something that you want to see young people organizing themselves. I'm going to ask Nero a question. Beyond the protests that we are seeing now, we know we all heard about the Arab Spring, and I think it was mostly most of the countries that were involved in the Arab Spring were actually countries from Africa. But it was clear that it seemed like it was a one step forward and 3 steps backward for most of them, or even
Many
worse.
steps backward.
Pardon?
Many steps backward.
Many steps backward. So beyond what we're seeing now, how can we consolidate the gains that we might get from a protest like the NSAS, and how can we institute structures that will bring about the change that young people are looking for, that will be long-lasting and sustainable in Nigeria?
So I think one of the things that I loved about this event that you organize is the opening statement, which is that nation building is not down to government alone. And that to me is the most important message that has to come out of this demonstration. I have wondered for a long time, thinking about ways in which we can excite the young people in Nigeria to begin to understand their role as citizens and to come out strongly and boldly to participate in the democratic process. Now, any demonstration cannot be an end in itself. If it is a failure. So this demonstration must be a lesson to all young people in Nigeria that they actually have power and that they can use that power positively to build this country. So there are a few things I think that can be done from here. One is that this demonstration and whatever comes out of it must be about a new Nigeria. And what I mean by that is that it cannot be a tribal movement. It cannot be a one religion movement. It's a movement of young Nigerians, young people in Nigeria. To me, that's a critical starting point for building something that lasts in the future. And the second thing is that recognition that you have a role to play in building the nation. It's not just about complaining. It's not just about screaming and shouting and fighting. And even if you bring down SARS, as is ongoing, that doesn't necessarily change the narrative in Nigeria. They have to begin to think about ways in which they can organize themselves, how they can learn the ropes about the system, not how it works, but how we can change the system and make it better for the future. And that means changing the way Nigeria is governed. That means building a new generation of young people who are conscious and who have a different orientation, as has been said, who are reoriented, not to think about what they can get from government, but how they can build this nation and make it better for all of us. And that means organizing. And it's not just about organizing into political parties. It's also about organizing at the local level. It's also about supporting the local schools, local hospitals, and so on and so forth, volunteering. It's all kinds of structures and systems that we know can help to build nations. And what you've set up here as well, BAPEG, I think is a great contribution to that narrative. And we need BAPEG in Nigeria, we need BAPEG Lagos, we need BAPEG Delta State, we need BAPEG across the country. Young people coming together to think and to express themselves in terms of what they really want to help to build that nation of Nigeria. So I think that these steps now, there's a demonstration that happened. We can see the democratic dividend of coming out and making your voice heard. Let's start to build the blocks and the foundations that can make that a permanent structure that can really build the Nigeria that we all want to see. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna thank you so much. I think that's very powerful. Very, very. I can hear really great things we could take out of this this event. I'm going to put a question to 3 people on this group. It will be Ife and Julius and also Buhari. The question is, we've seen the demonstration going on as it has not only happened in Nigeria, but there's been a lot of interest across the world, not just from Nigerians in diaspora, but people who love the country Nigeria, because we are well loved across the world. We see the demonstration in London was massive. But there are lots of young people, diasporans, asking, how can we contribute to what is going on in Nigeria? I will start from Julius. How can the young people, how can people in diaspora actually contribute to the Nigerian development, to the Nigerian movement, to this new movement we are seeing? What can they do? 2 minutes,
Thank you.
please.
So it's education. The biggest gap that we have in Nigeria is education. And we're talking about the education process. Why are we having this event today? Why do we have people like Ife, other gentleman who was a special advisor in UK? Why do we have other people? Young people don't have the structure for the education, for political education. So what we can get from Nigerians in diaspora are the people that have the structure for the education politically can come back and see how they can synergize with the people who are here locally to tell them on how to strategic place themselves in terms of what they want and what they want to achieve in the next quarter, in the next 2 years, in the next 4 years, in the next political dispensation. So the only path where I see it coming from Nigerians in diaspora would be education.
Thank you, Mr. Buhari, please.
Yeah, thank you. You know, with regards to the protest, I like the fact that we talked about similar protests that have happened in around Africa, especially when the Arab Spring kicked off. You see, I'm excited that the young people are finding a voice. I'm excited that we're doing something together. I'm excited that the subject matter is something that is going to benefit all of us. There is no place in the world that you would find progress if there is no proper law enforcement as well as justice. The next point should be the justice system. If there is justice, there's going to be progress. But you see, unlike the march in England, in London, for example, where Ife is leading, Ife can actually speak clearly, in clear terms, to authorities and say, this is exactly what we want. This is exactly how we want to achieve this.
You are answering her question.
You know, yeah, because you see, there's a danger to all of this, and we must be very careful. When there's a leadership to it, especially if it is a credible leadership with integrity, you are able to now say, okay, everybody, we have milestones, we have things we want to achieve, and we're going to give them 1 day or 5 days or 1 month to achieve these things. Failure to achieve these things, we hit the streets back, because you cannot cripple everything happening at the same time. Today, in Nigeria, as the protesters went about their peaceful protest, they were engaged by hoodlums who, I don't know if they're standing on the side of the government or on the side of the devil, but they actually attacked these people at different places, trying to sort of scare them away from doing what they're doing. Luckily, the protesters were more in number, and they were able to overpower those people. In fact, what happened in Lagos was, after they beat up the boys, they called an ambulance to take them away for treatment. But the point of the matter here is, it's imperative that we are able to create some sort of clear platform where we're going to say, okay, fine, these are the things that we want to achieve. For example, when we started, we said we wanted end SARS, and then end SARS came. They said they've ended the SARS. Okay, now we say, okay, we want to end police brutality. Okay, fine. What are the things that you want? For me right now, as a Nigerian citizen, as somebody who would want to see this country progress, I would like to advise that the president does those 5 things very, very importantly. And those 5 things must be done now, because every single minute counts. The first thing must be that the president must fire the Inspector General of Police. Whether we like it or not, he has failed in his capacity as the Inspector General of Police. The second thing is that we have to list out all the names of the people that have been senselessly killed by the police and SARS operatives, and give a national apology as well as compensate their families. The third thing that must happen should be that we restructure the police service. The police have got to be restructured. I'm talking about restructuring the police service and bettering their welfare. We're talking about educational system for their children. We're talking about a mortgage system for them to get their houses. We're talking about access to healthcare. We're talking about trainings for them. We're also talking about life insurances. The fourth thing that we must do is to ensure that the government, President Buhari, must seize this opportunity now that the Nigerians have presented before him, that Mr. President, do the needful, restructure this space. This is an opportunity for you to restructure not just the police service, but your entire governmental system. The entire security service is 40. There are more senseless killings in the north. I mean, every day we're dealing with kidnappers, we're dealing with banditry, we're dealing with Boko Haram. Nobody even has an idea when this is going to end.
Thank you, Mr. Buhari. Thank you. Those are very important points. Thanks for your for that. We're running out of time. I'm going to give Ife the floor to just tell us in 2 minutes what she thinks as a diaspora that has a passion for Nigeria. What do you think someone like you should be contributing to the movement, the change that's about to happen or that's happening right now in the country?
Yes, thank you very much. I think just to add to what everyone said, I would say the first thing is like what Julia said, particularly is educate yourself. I think Nigerians within the diaspora sometimes, being a like, for instance, I consider myself a British Nigerian. You might fall in love or like the aesthetics of the country, the culture of the music and the food, but not understanding the realities of living in the country, what it's like day in, day out. The fact that, SARS, for instance, the police system have been killing people. So things like educating yourself on the realities of the country is very important. It's the first step, I would say, for those within the Nigerian diaspora. The second thing I would say is to connect with various NGOs and organizations. For instance, we've got BAPEG, we've got My Voice, My Future. Those organizations are very important for us to connect so that we can work together to ensure that we can make a change to the country, is what I would say is the most important thing, particularly for those who don't live in the country, but need to, want to make an impact. First of all, educate yourself and connect with those various organizations to bring a change.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Obono, is it there? I'm going to ask you a question. You are someone that have, through your work, you've traveled across the world. I noticed you were giving some lectures to Columbia University sometime a couple of weeks ago. But the question is, how can young intellectuals like you, because it is one role to be a politician, but it's also another role to be a technocrat or a bureaucrat or someone that is working in one of the 3 tiers of government that we have in Nigeria. How can do young people have a presence right now in government? And how can they increase their presence? How can they increase the impact they are making in government right now? You're on mute again.
Okay. First, young people are not, I don't think, in the 3 tiers of government. I mean, I'm talking about the 3 tiers of government. We're talking about the presidency, the governorship, and the governor, the executive, and then we're talking about the local government, which also comprises of the councillors and ward chairmen. I don't believe that the presidency has any quota for young people other than the spokesman. That means if you're looking at young people in the presidency, that are in the presidency, you're talking about everybody that is more or less either handling social media accounts of the president personally, or you're talking about people who are handling the social media accounts of the government. So these are not policymakers. They are just supposed to feed the public with information that has already been made, or policy that has already been passed or decided by the government. So they are just the sellers of the presidency. And if you're talking of, when you're also looking at young people, we are also considering that we are talking about people within the age bracket of 18 to 35. And so we don't have that at the presidency. Then, in terms of governors, the answer is so clear. We don't have any of those in government, as governors. However, within the local government tier of government, I wouldn't know. I don't have all the data of the 774 local governments in Nigeria, but I should believe that there are some people or some local government chairman somewhere who are actually younger, or maybe councillors in Nigeria. So I can't categorically say in authority that these are the number of people within local government, tier of government, that are actually young people making policies. However, do we have SAs? Yes, we do. How many? In fact, recently, young people was appointed as Commissioner for Budget of Finance in the state, and the whole country was applauding that. And then there is a governor in Oyo State. The governor of Oyo State also appointed some young person, and the governor of Kwara State did the same thing. And so it's so interesting to know that a youthful population like Nigeria, with over 70% of young people, we would have sprinkles or pockets of young people in government, and then we are clapping and applauding. So how do we reverse that? That's the question. So
Yes.
the best thing is to have a united voice. So this is the first time young people are coming together apart from Occupy Nigeria, and regardless of party lines, to say, hey, enough is enough, and we need to exercise. How can we kind of transpose that into political action, right? So first off, it's not just about, when people talk about political action, then they tend to say one of the major problems of young people getting into politics is that they don't have money. And I don't believe, I don't want to agree to that. So the first point of call is your mobilization. How are young people mobilizing? So what I would say is that young people should come together and decide that in 2023, we are not going to allow the older people to, the bad ones, to take over power again. We want to be the ones to run the things that we want to run. So they all need to just queue or move in one voice, either to take over a political party or set up their own political party and then move in. I mean, these things are actually easy to say, but I don't think they are also very difficult to achieve. If young people decide to mobilize themselves, we will be able to get what we want to get. And it will no longer be about the older generation appointing us. We will be the ones appointing them as elder statesmen to advise us. Is that simple?
Thank you very much. That's very powerful. I actually like that parting statement. You know, we need to appoint the elder statesmen and advisors. We have we have less than 5 minutes. Do we have any questions on the chat that we can look at? I want to thank the panelists. I think you've done a great job. There's a question here that said, I have is what next can the youth do after the EndSARS protest? What practical steps can they take to make their voice heard? Are there petitions in Nigeria? That's a wonderful question. I think I'm going to just add something to that. We have been discussing in BAPEG something called the Youth Manifesto in Nigeria. We feel like if there's a manifesto that we could get millions of youth to sign up to, it could be a starting point in saying, this is what we require from political parties in Nigeria to sign up to. If you win the presidency, your party should feed, for instance, 50% of the candidates should come from people under 50 years old. If you win the presidency, 50% of your cabinet must be people under 40 years old. You know, just a set of easy rules, easy things that political parties that want our vote can sign up to. But we want millions of young Nigerians to sign up to that first. So I think I could tie that to the question. I would put that to Buhari and Julius. Do you think that would work? If something that people could sign?
You know, when we talk about these things, you know, we're always very quick to make comparisons with what is obtainable in the diaspora. The truth is, just like in the last election, sorry, there's a background noise that's very uncomfortable.
Sorry.
Yeah, just like in the last election, again, we're going to be talking about elitist youth, you know, signing that petition. Those guys in the rural areas they don't understand all of these things you're talking about. Really, they can't be bothered. For them, they're just waiting for the election cycle to come and you do what you have to do. So the poverty is real. I like the fact that we've talked about education, and a lot of people have got to be educated to understand their rights and what they deserve. I mean, you need to really go to the grassroots and see the kind of people that you're expecting to sign this petition, and you understand that you haven't started You haven't really started the real work. I've been
Thanks.
to,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks. I'm sorry, we have to end. I'm
Sure.
gonna end the. Is there any one more question before we go? Before we go, I think what I'm just gonna do is to thank all of you for coming. We have more questions. We have more questions to ask you guys, but we don't have the time. But I think we had a great meeting. I had great ideas and initiatives from people, and great answers to questions. I think we will we'll continuously have things like this, something we call under the tree of talking, where we can come and keep having these discussions. I want to thank every panelist that took out their time to be part of what BAPEG is doing. I also want to thank the New Nigerian Post for hosting this event. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in. I want you to follow our social media handles. Our Twitter is at BAPEG3. Our Facebook is BAPEG, BAPEG, and our YouTube is also BAPEG. Also follow the New Nigerian Post on Facebook and also on YouTube, where you get more information about our next event. Hopefully, we'll be bringing back some of these guests to really explore their mind and have healthy discussions on how to move Nigeria and Africa forward. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice one. Thank you.
Excellent. Great.